Well, hey, happy afternoon and happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope everybody's November is going well so far. If you're not aware, my name is Fletcher with DJ Event Planner. To answer your questions, feel free in the chat box. If you have questions during this presentation, please feel free to post them. The event is being recorded, David, so don't worry. We're going to have a live replay on Thursday evening on the Facebook group as well, too. So if you can't stay for the whole meeting or you miss parts of it, look for the recording to be available Thursday evening, and then we'll also be posted to our YouTube page as well. So today's event that we're talking about in this live is going to be managing events, reschedules, cancellations, and refunds. One of the things this DJEP live, I think, is going to be a little bit different because there is no real correct or wrong way to manage an event when it comes to schedulings, refunds, and cancellations. Of course, it's going to be based upon what is best for your business and the way you do things in your business. So we do have information that we already have posted on our website, which you can find on Facebook. And I'm going to post a link to that here in the chat here in just a second, but just so you can see what that looks like. We put this out earlier in the year. In fact, I wasn't intending to actually do a live event in regards to COVID-19 because, well, simply put, it's supposed to be done already. But anyway, this was one of the most requested topics to be covered in this session. So I'm going to post a link to that for you guys in the chat. If you have not found that, again, you can also find the link to that COVID resource page on our Facebook page on our DJ Event Planner page on Facebook. So, but that link is there in the chat, so feel free to use that. That's what we're going to be kind of going over and discussing in today's chat. And again, like I said, there is no, this is how you have to do it. It's what's going to make most sense for your business. So certain things out, kind of covering the top of that topic. And the reason why we're covering this a little bit further, obviously, depending on where you're at in the country, and if you're in the US or you're in the UK or even Australia, no matter where, I'm sure we're all seeing a resurgence in COVID cases. And unfortunately, that's just the way things are right now. As we move forward, we're hoping that obviously this is only going to last a lot shorter than it did in the spring. But I do foresee, obviously, there's going to be more reschedulings coming up, cancellations, and of course, possibly refunds as well. But to get things kind of started, looking at the start, I think one of the best things to do is always take a preemptive approach with your clients. If you're in a state or a region or area that is being put into shutdown, like our area here, starting tomorrow at 12:01, I'm based out of Michigan, we are getting shut down for 3 weeks. So that should be fun. I know that there's a lot of events that have been canceling over that 3-week time period. Of course, that 3 weeks is just the start. So hopefully it doesn't go much longer than that, but we'll find out. So what do I mean by being preemptive? You'll see on that link on that page here, and let me bring that page back up first and foremost. If you're in a region that's going to be shut down, our best advice is to reach out to your clients. If you have events scheduled in that time period that you have cancellations or the state is shutting down or making restrictions on number of events that you can have or number of guests, create an email template. We have some sample templates here that you can borrow from. Reach out to your clients, say, hey, we know what's going on. We know what's coming up. If you have to reschedule or make changes to your event, please let us know. Your clients will absolutely appreciate you reaching out to them in advance prior to. So that's the real first part, is to get that client reassurance, let them know that you know what's up. You can't hide from it. Even if you pretend it doesn't exist, it does exist, and your clients know it exists. So I think you'll create a better relationship with your client in the long run if you reach out with them and touch base with them prior to them reaching out to you. There's also a few templates that you'll find on that webpage for responding to requests to postpone or cancel. So if you don't have one already by now, you can find these templates here in response to those clients that ask you to postpone or cancel their event. Now, a couple of big things to think about here as well, too. If you haven't done so already, in your documents, in your contracts that you're sending out, it's definitely wise and advisable to have updated terms and conditions in those contracts, simply to protect yourself with wording regarding cancellations and postponements. And we personally are not going to be able to give you that specific wording to use because each area, state, location, locale, whatever, sometimes has different laws. So you definitely want to speak with a local attorney to make sure that your contract terms are going to protect you in the event that a client attempts to take you to court. So again, if you have any questions during this live, feel free to post them in the chat. And then we're also going to do a live Q&A towards the end of it, or even in the middle, depends on where we get. But I'm going to try to keep the information relatively quick for you because you do have this page that you can revisit. And again, this is the information that we're going to cover in this DJEP live for you guys. So getting started, how do we manage an event inside of DJ Event Planner that wants to cancel, postpone, or reschedule? The first place we recommend to start is with creating some new event statuses. Obviously, statuses that pertain to that specifically regarding COVID. And you'll see the examples here, postponed -COVID-19, canceled -COVID, and rescheduled COVID. The reason behind this and why you want to do this is you can keep track of the hit that you took basically during COVID. One of the things that I wanted to try to do for this chat was actually get a CPA on with us, but I was unable to do so in time. But I definitely highly encourage you to reach out to your CPA or your accountant prior to coming up with a plan inside of DJ Event Planner, because come tax time next year, we're going to experience something different that we all have never experienced, which is obviously a lot of refunds, a lot of cancellations, postponements. There's obviously the different federal funding that went on, the PP, or not the PP, but whatever, the different federal funding programs. And if you took part in those, or the PPP, the Personal Paycheck Protection programs, make sure you talk to a CPA about how that's going to have an impact on your taxes and what kind of records you need to have for the year when you file your taxes in 2021 for 2020. And that's why I say it's important to keep these event statuses inside your system so you have a good record of how many events rescheduled, so how much income did you have and then lose, as far as refunds as well, to be able to track your income loss. Once you have those new event statuses created, if you don't know how to create a new event status, you're simply going to go to Setup, Application, and then click on Event Status. And then here you can create and edit your statuses and, of course, color code them for your own personal preference. So if you wanted to add some new COVID statuses, just simply type in a spot, postponed, COVID-19, for example, and then click Save Settings, and there'll be a new status that's available for you. Once you have your statuses set up, it's important to create a saved report tied to these new statuses so you can reference that information relatively quickly. If you have not built custom reports, we do have some information on our YouTube page about reports. And we can kind of cover that a little bit further in detail if you guys have not created a custom report. There is information on here on how to quickly create a report, but you're going to go to Reports in the left menu, Export Data. And because we're looking at events, we're going to use the Events Report. And these are the available fields that we can select from to build out a report. One of them that you want to have, of course, is status. And once you've selected your fields, you can filter those fields and include only specific statuses or specific event details in this report that you want to see. So moving along, again, we're going to keep it kind of quickly. The next step would be to create additional document templates that you may need, and of course, edit any current document templates. So if you already have current contracts signed and you want to have current clients sign an addendum, you can create an addendum. You can create cancellation documents. I always have encouraged with a cancellation document that you do have the client sign it. If you don't have your client sign a cancellation document, basic wording of, releasing you from the contract. So that way, again, there's no further legal abilities that they have against you guys. And then, of course, new contracts for rescheduled dates. If you're unaware of how to make those contracts, we do have tutorial videos on our YouTube page for those contracts as well. Next, you want to disable scheduled emails for those events affected. So you don't want to worry about an email that's coming up. There's a couple different ways that you can do that. One, obviously, once the event status has been changed, if you have not added that new event status to your scheduled email templates, then it will not go out to those emails. But you can always check by going to your email templates, clicking on the template. Actually, let's find one that's scheduled here. Click scheduling, and then double check the event statuses that it is going to. By default, when you add a new event status, I just realized I misspelled postponed, it's not added to the scheduling automatically. So if you change an event status, it should not trigger that email. If you have an event that has a scheduled email set to go out to it, you can see here on this email, let's say this client, Jojo, in our demo account, canceled his event. You can come to the email tab and click on mark as sent, and that'll remove it from the scheduled emails. So you don't have to worry about that client getting that email template. So again, there is no 100% right or wrong way to do this. It's going to be what works best for your business. Obviously, if you have a lot of events that are canceling, you don't want to have to go to every event and click scheduled. Make those changes to the event status. We'll call it postponed, postponed, COVID, and then that scheduled email will not go out. A couple other tips that you want to do is if you have any appointments, obviously you want to cancel those. So managing refunds and unpaid invoices. This is probably one of the biggest, most important topics and questions that we get asked a lot when it comes to refunds. Obviously, the refund itself, the actual transferring of the money has to be done through your payment processor. So if they paid you via PayPal or Square or Stripe or bank transfer, whatever it may be, you'll have to refund them back through that same processor. Inside of DJ Event Planner, you have a couple options that you can add the refund as. You can add it as a payment, as a negative payment. You can add it as a discount to the event, or you can add the refund as an expense. And this is one of the options that I prefer to utilize, is adding it as an expense, because when you run reports at the end of the year, you'll be able to see all of those refunds in your expense report versus the income or payment report. To add a refund via expense, if we're on an event, we'll go to the financials tab. And under the payment for the event, you'll find expenses. And here you can add an expense. You can type in who the payee is. At this point in time, it would be the client. So it would be Jojo. The category, we're going to put this under a refund. You could add a new category if you wanted to. If it was a refund just specifically for COVID and you wanted to track those specifically in your expense report, you can do that as well. You can select what payment method that you did. Obviously, there's some interesting ones on here because this is the demo account that some users have been playing around with. And you can enter the amount of the refund. And you can enter the date paid, of course, in the description. And then whatever other details that you want to have on there. And then when you save it, it'll be attached to this event, as well as it'll show up inside of your expense reports. Now, the thing to note is you'll see that the balance due has not changed. It doesn't reflect the financials. This is where it's going to come down to how what works best for your business. Me personally, when I add that refund, I will add it as a negative payment here as well. And let's say we do this as a cash payment. So it's $300, negative 300, save payment. And I left it as retainer fee. But now you'll see that the balance due is changed in the amount of negative $300. And I've had some of our users say, well, they still have a balance. Yes, they do still have a balance. And in my records, I want to be able to see that because they went from, say, having the $1,650 amount due, they paid $300, came down to $1,350. I'm going to put it back up to $1,650 because it's still the original balance due. So if that client comes back to us and says, hey, I still want to do this event, we just changed the date a year from now, the original balance of $1,650 is still there because essentially they still owe that money. And I just kind of went over that really, really quickly. Feel free to raise your hand or let me know if you have any questions in regards to those. I'm looking to see if anybody has any hands raising up here, but no, I don't see any yet.
I have one, Fletcher.
Sure.
Sorry, if you left this as is and it was a balance owing and the date comes and goes, does that affect your financials? Like it looks like you're behind that amount. I've always zeroed mine out if anything happened, um, just so that I don't have an outstanding balance showing somewhere.
Right. And that's going to be, again, personal preference and how you want to see things. Obviously, if they fully cancel and the event is completely canceled, then you can zero it out. But it depends again on how you want to keep things for your records. So if the event was a cancellation, it's not going to show, as long as you don't have let me take a step back here to the event statuses. If you don't have that status marked as a booked event status, it's not going to show up in your positive financials. Does that make sense? So when you run it, or if you don't have it set up down here as your financial event status options, if you have it just the same as booked, because that way you can run a report at the end of the year for those the COVID cancellation. I can't talk today. The canceled COVID events, and get a full report of how much money you actually lost over the year if you leave the balance in there. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problems. So that's one of the reasons why I like to leave it in there, just for that report purpose. Because if you zero it out and then you go to run that report, it's not as clear as to how much money you lost. So again, like I said a couple times, it's definitely what's going to come down to works best for your business and makes the most sense. So again, I'm not going to tell you it has to be done this way, or there is a yes or a no, or this is a perfect way. I mean, even for us as well, this is unprecedented when it comes to the number of cancellations and refunds and postponed and rescheduled events that we've seen ever in this industry. So a lot of this is, again, it's going to be what works best for your business, for you. But again, I encourage and urge to keep track of those postponed, canceled, and rescheduled events, simply because you want to be able to look back on the year. And again, this is where you want to have that conversation with a CPA or a financial expert and say, hey, what do I need to have for next year on my taxes? Is there any kind of insight? Because who knows what kind of write-off we're going to be able to do as businesses. We may be able to write off a percentage of those losses. So it's definitely important to keep those records. I wish I had a perfect 100% answer for you, but again, I know every area is a little bit different depending on what country you're in. And of course, if you're in some states, as far as like local taxes go. So you'll definitely want to speak to someone that's local to you to make sure that those are on point for next year. So a couple other things regarding payments, scheduled payments. You want to make sure if you use scheduled payments in an event, you want to make sure that you disabled any scheduled emails that include merge tags for scheduled payments. So your client isn't getting a follow-up, hey, your payment number 2 is due. Again, that's simply just looking at your emails. They shouldn't be getting it if you change the event status and you didn't add that status to that scheduled email. So again, that's why it's important to utilize those new statuses and put them in here to keep track of those events, because as soon as you change that status to postpone or rescheduled, then you have that. Once they move forward with a new date, it's just going to be as simple as putting that event back in. And our suggestion is, if you have an event that is postponed or rescheduled or canceled, we'll come here to this event and use this for an example. If we had this event as postponed COVID-19 and this client calls us back up, I hope they're not postponing from January 1st, 2022. Let's just say they're put them sometime this year. So if the event called us up and said, hey, we're rescheduling to 2021, we've picked our date, it's May 3rd, whatever. If they happen to be postponed COVID, what I'll do, instead of changing the details on this event, we're going to go to the details tab and I'm going to duplicate this event. And I'm going to duplicate it to their new day next year. Let's just say May 15th. And we'll put it as whatever status it is right now. And that'll put it on the new status. And the reason why I would duplicate that event is, again, going back to this client and their events, when I go to run my reports and I see this postponed, and I will still see that this event was a loss of income for 2020. How important that's going to be when it comes to the end of the year and running our reports and taxes, I don't have an answer for you yet. But I still say it's a safe bet to keep record of all those events that you've had to move. So that's why I think it's important to duplicate that event and keep the original event on that date. And it'll move over all of the financials, anything that was already on that event. Any payments you can move over. If that other event still had payments that were applied to it, you could back those payments out of that event and then just simply move them to this new event. And that's just a matter of deleting it from the other one and then clicking add payment for this event here. To-do items. Actually, to-do items are actually really important as well. To-do and next actions, and we'll cover kind of both of those at the same time. If you're not using to-do items to keep you on your toes, as well as using next actions, they're huge, and I'll show you why. To-do items and next actions are going to be completely different. Next actions will have a date specific to them. To-do items will not. They'll appear as a to-do list. So if you have something that you need to do for an event, let's say for this postponed event, where we go, let's go back to a previous event here, this canceled event. And let's say that they haven't followed up with us yet. The to-do on this, we can find underneath the contact manager in a new to-do item, and it pops up in a new window. And it's the appointment window. Whoops. Let's say, for example, that on this to-do, we need to follow up on rescheduling. You can add a description. Oh, I cannot type today either. You can assign it to a venue, an employee, a vendor, or a contact. The client is already assigned because we did the to-do from the client. If you leave it without selecting anybody, you can, it'll just show up on the master administrator, or you can assign it to all employees, or if you have a master administrator or a person that's taking care of that, a salesperson, for example, it'll appear on their to-dos on their calendar. You can color code this as well. The color coding, I think, is only for appointments. Let me rephrase that. But once you save this, it's going to take us back to, let me get back to there. It'll appear underneath the event. And when we go to our home page or our dashboard or our calendar where we have it set up, we have our to-do list on the right-hand side. Now this will appear here until we mark this to-do as done or mark it as completed. So this is one way to follow up on specific things that need to be done for events. Me personally, I like to use the to-do list for more of office items. Buy batteries, order a monogram or whatever specifically, things that don't have a specific date to them. Things that do have a specific date, I prefer to utilize next actions. And next actions, if you haven't done them, you can see them up here on the right-hand side. These are date specific, and you can have next actions appear on your calendar and on your dashboard. And you can also create or use scheduled actions to automatically update and roll over those next actions. So say, for example, if this event was postponed COVID-19, my next action on this might be, again, follow up on rescheduling. And because they just contacted me this week, let's say 2 weeks from today, I need to follow up with them. And now this will stay on the calendar on that date instead of just the side panel. And you'll see here, follow up on rescheduling. And if you set up scheduled actions, to roll over your next actions, which I like to do here, you can decide to have the next action roll over to the current date or to the current date and add an exclamation mark. I personally like the exclamation mark because for every day that next action is not changed, it's going to add an exclamation mark in front of it and it'll appear on that day. So the more exclamation points, the more behind you are on getting that next action completed. And when you log into the system and you're on that date, or if you utilize the dashboard and widgets as a master administrator, that'll appear on that date when you log in. And when you click on it, it'll take you to the event. You do your follow-up with that client. You can either create a new next action or you can clear that next action, which I used to have a clear next action on this one, but it's gone now. So that one's been deleted. I use a booking helper to clear the next action once it's been completed, because it makes it a little bit quicker than having to click in here and closing it out. But so between using the to-dos and the next actions, those are going to help you stay on top of your clients, and those that are postponed and that need assistance moving forward on those, and making sure you're staying on top of those. And of course, booking helpers. We did the booking helper live event last month, I think, and I think it was last month, but it's available on our YouTube page, as well as it's been posted to the DJ Event Planner Facebook page, as well as the user-to-user group. So make sure to look out for those videos as well. That'll have some tips or tricks that you can utilize to help with that, managing those events inside of DJ Event Planner for COVID. So some of those booking helpers that you could create, for example, are simply changing the event date, or I'm not the event date, I'm sorry, the event status. So perhaps it's changing it to postpone COVID-19, and we want to follow up on a reschedule. We can add our next action right here as well, and we want to do it 10 days maybe after today's date. You could add a payment. So if you wanted to add that refund, if you want to create a booking helper to add a refund, you could do that as well. You could change the permissions for the client portal. So if they're postponing their event or canceling their event, and you have the portal set up for everybody, you could change out the lockout status, send a specific email. So if it's a cancellation email that you're sending to the client, you can have that triggered as well, instead of having to do that all manually within the event. And that's a quick overview of managing and events inside of DJ Event Planner with reschedules, cancellations, and postponements and refunds. And I kind of went over that again really, really quickly, simply because we all have the information written out here for you guys. Again, this link is available in the chat, as well on the Facebook group and the users group on Facebook. And this video will be available Thursday. We're going to do a live replay and then also post it to YouTube. So with that said, I'd kind of like to move forward to the question section for you guys. Does anybody have any questions regarding any of this information or other topics regarding DJ Event Planner? And feel free to post it in the chat box, or raise your hand or unmute your microphone. How are things going in your guys' areas as far as COVID and shutdowns and events? Is anybody still doing events? Has anybody been shut down completely? Chris, you guys are wide open. Where are you located again, Chris? Florida. Yep, I just talked to another member from Florida, and they're working hard right now. So they just told me that they did an event that had about 5,000 people at it in Florida, and they were super surprised. And David, no events in the UK. I saw that you guys have been shut down. When does the UK is till the end of the year, isn't it? The UK shutdown is until the end of December. I can't hear who's unmuted. We had a question. Was that you, Keith?
I was just going to say Ontario, Canada is shut down. It's been shut down for quite some time.
Wow.
No events happening. So, yeah. So we get to do the perfect portal stuff.
Rock on.
Yeah.
It's funny how our expenses are still at 100%, but our revenue is not.
Right. Yeah, that's the downfall. And that's, again, why I urge and stress to keep a record of it. Because, again, I don't know what the tax implications are going to be at the end of the year, what we're going to be allowed to do when it comes to filing our business taxes. But I'm really hoping and crossing my fingers that Uncle Sam is going to provide some kind of assistance with, especially the gig industry, and being able to write off losses to a greater extent than before, is what I'm hoping for. But
well, that's, silver lining. It opens up more time for things like this, where we can, DJ Event Planner is one of those things that the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. But
Oh, absolutely.
if you're like me, you set it up to go for 75%, and then you never really, push yourself further because you put it off. But this is a good excuse to get some of this stuff done.
Absolutely. And, and I've said it before too, you'll find we're doing a real hard push on trying to get more tutorial videos available out on YouTube, and hoping to next year launch a more comprehensive education center
Nice.
type situation. So you'll have a little bit, almost even if my overall goal is with hope to design it like courses, where you can visit specific courses that only pertain to your business setup or business type. Obviously, the difficulties in that is that we have a lot of different types of businesses that utilize DJ Event Planner to manage their accounts, as well as just everybody's different. It's one of the reasons why DJ Event Planner has so many settings available and options available, because no two businesses run the same. So definitely can be a lot different. And I saw a couple questions coming in here as well in comments. I saw Kelly, you had a wedding last Saturday, one party in December. We're not sure want to do it. I totally feel you. And I know there's a lot of disappointment with a lot of this. Obviously, the situation's going around. My phone reminded me yesterday that I'm supposed to be in Las Vegas right now for the NBA. And even worse time, tomorrow's my birthday. So I would have been in Vegas for my birthday. I mean, what better type of place to be for your birthday, and now I'm working from home still. So
well, happy birthday anyway.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. And then, so you got some restrictions all over the country. Philly just shut down again, Chuck. Yeah, holiday is going to be wonderful, Peter. I hear you on that one. Basically, with shutdowns all over Central Europe and Czech, and cool. Yeah, definitely. It seems like a lot of us, no matter where we're at, we're in the same situations. I see David's out of Australia. They're hovering around 0 infection, but they do have some small breakouts. But it sounds like Australia's government is doing a fair job of managing them. I'll just leave that comment there. A better job than here, it sounds like. But yeah. Oh, there, and not to, I know we obviously have some users from Canada here. I don't know if any of our users in here or on this call are from Quebec, but I saw an article that one of our Canadian DJs shared on Facebook. I think it was Karen Walker, Keith's partner at Perfect Portals, had posted that Quebec is planning on banning new gasoline vehicle sales in 2031, I think, or 2035. I mean, granted, that's a decade away, but I think a lot of areas are going to start moving to that. I know California has talked about putting a ban on gasoline vehicles. And when you think about something that we're going through right now with COVID and the effect that it has on us financially, having to think of, oh, great, I got to, especially if you're a larger company, you actually have a fleet of vehicles, which according to Quebec, the businesses will be exempt from having to switch over to electric. But still, I mean, even in our personal lives, if you're a single DJ in a solo op and all of a sudden you have to buy a $45,000, $50,000 electric vehicle, unless prices come down by then, that's going to be crazy. But thanks, Renee, for the happy birthday, Kelly, as well. Let's see. I think I got through all those questions. If you didn't see the poll that I posted, there's a poll in there I do one every week with the live. Quick question while I got you guys here as well. I forgot to put it on the poll. When it comes to the format of these DJEP lives, is the format well with the registration process of registering for it? Would you rather register for it so you get the confirmations and the reminders through Zoom, or do you think a live feed to Facebook would be better, Facebook or YouTube?
I'll start. I actually like the Zoom platform because we can talk back and forth, and there's a little bit more clarity if there is a question that pops up. But
absolutely,
I'm happy with this one
for
personally.
Sure. Cool.
Definitely Zoom.
Definitely Zoom. Yeah, I feel I definitely like the two-way communication, because there's one thing. I mean, obviously, apparently, I like to talk, and sometimes I talk fast.
I try to slow down for you guys because depending upon the information that we have to cover, that's one of the reasons why we record it, in case you have to go back and rewatch something that I said too quickly. But having that two-way communication, I think, is extremely good. And especially in a time like now with COVID, Dennis, like you said, now is a great time to work on your business and work on things like DJ Event Planner. And I think being able to come together as a group is extremely important. And I think that was one of the things that I think disappoints me about some of the virtual expos that are currently going on, that they're pre-recorded and they're not live, because there's that inability to ask those questions that you normally get a chance to ask. So, okay, David, you found it. Let's see what else what other stuff we have. As far as the rescheduling cancellations, and again, anything that we talked about, again, there is no right or wrong ways to specifically do it. Those are primarily the options that you have available to you to do it. Find what works best for you. Again, though, I would encourage you to keep those records. Again, I don't know if we're going to be able to use them, but keep those records, even if it's for nostalgia purposes. So when we're back in full swing a couple years down the road, you can go, look, we were down 85% in 2020 from where we were today. So even if we can't use it, but again, hopefully we'll be able to use it on our financials coming up in the 2021 tax season. But again, anybody with any questions, it doesn't have to be COVID related or rescheduling or postponements or concerns, anything related with DJ Event Planner or life in general, I'll do my best to answer those questions for you. Yes, Chuck, the video will be posted. We're going to do live on Thursday. Normally I do them on Wednesdays. However, tomorrow is my birthday and people didn't want me to present or work on my birthday on Wednesday. So we'll be doing it Thursday. I think I said 7 o'clock. I honestly, I have no idea what time I posted it at, but it is posted on, I think it's posted on the Facebook group. Let's just double check, but oh, we had to change the image or the time on there. So I think I said 7 o'clock, but look for it on, look for it to be posted on Thursday in the users group, and then I'll promote it Thursday morning as well with the specific time. I want to say 7 o'clock Central was the time that we selected, and we'll go from there. So it's just a live watch party where it'll be replayed, but it'll also be available on the Facebook users group in the videos. I believe it gets stuck there, right? I should probably double check. Apparently it doesn't. Wait. No, apparently it doesn't. So it'll be available on our YouTube page. So if you go to YouTube, DJ Event Planner users, you'll see the videos here. We have our DJEP live events, recordings. You can also get there by going to support options in the left menu and then clicking the YouTube channel icon. Thanks, Sean, for the birthday wishes. Look forward to hopefully seeing everybody next year in person at an event, an expo somewhere. That would make life a lot better. So excellent. Any other questions that you guys have for DJ Event Planner, whether it's, again, anything about DJ Event Planner? Doesn't matter. I'll do my best to throw an answer at it for you.
Ask me again after I try out the new custom widgets and everything. I'm sure I'll have plenty of questions.
That one, we're going to actually, Alex and I are going to try to get together after it's been out for, maybe another week or so. And we're going to do a live event on that as well, to try to answer any questions. Obviously it is still an open beta, so you're going to come across some errors every great once in a while. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of options that you can utilize in it.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's all about what you want to see when you log in, plain and simple.
Yeah,
So
and like you said earlier, everyone's different. So what's important to me will be different than what's important to Keith, and so on, right?
absolutely. Thanks, Keith, for the birthday shout out. Chris, we do have a video that I did a brief overview. You'll find on DJ Event Planner. It's the DJ Event Planner dashboard overview coming soon. Again, that's just a brief overview. It doesn't go into deep detail on each of the different widgets that are available. So you'll want to really kind of play with those a little bit. We do have some descriptions that are going to be coming out. I don't know if we have those available yet. Let me see. Melissa might know more. I don't know if those have been. Yep. I think they're available in everybody's accounts. That's a good question, actually. So Melissa believes they are as well. So clicking the widget descriptions will take you to, we'll open a page with a little bit of like a help FAQ type situation where you can look at the different widgets, and there's a write-up about what each widget does and what can be done in it. So I think that'll help as well. So if you haven't seen that yet, make sure you click on that. And let's see here as well. So overhauling the system. Yeah, it's definitely a good time to overhaul, especially while we're slower. If we're slower with events, to work on DJ Event Planner. And, you know, one of the places that I always suggest starting is with your workflow, and just identifying it. So starting on your event statuses, identifying that, and I'd even write it down visually, and then write what you want to have take place in each step of the workflow, and then revisit your email templates, and then build out from there, including your booking helpers as well. So Sean wanted to know how to schedule an email on client day 3, day 6, day, etc. That's a good question, Sean. Now, are you talking about a booked client, a new lead inquiry? What is the content of the email, I guess, that you want to schedule that email for? So for a new lead, perfect. So when you're building up a new lead email template, or excuse me, email campaign, you see all these blue bars. These are going to be your campaign titles. Again, this is a demo account, so there's some funky stuff in here, I guess is the best way to put it. When you're selecting the email templates, you want to make sure it's going to be event-based, because it's going to be based upon one single event. And when you add that template, the subject is what your client's going to see. So you want to make sure that you make that client friendly. And you can personalize the subject line as well with merge tags. So you can do things, whatever it may be. And you can put your whatever content you want to put in there as far as your first follow-up, second follow-up, etc. Whoops, I can't type. Just show something basic in there. Anyway, that works. As far as the scheduling goes, under that scheduling tab, so if you want to send this email template, say this is the first one that you want to send out, maybe it's 1 day, 2 days after the initial contact date. The initial contact date will typically I don't want to say typically, will be auto-populated when you add that event into the system if you have it set to do so. If you want it to be scheduled, you're going to enable it here. And then you're going to select what event types that it's available for. So you can have a different inquiry email campaign go out based upon the type of the event. So if it's going to be a corporate event or wedding, you can have wording specific to it. And then here you're going to select your event status that it's going to go to. So if it's a new lead, for example, we're going to select just new lead. And then of course down here you can decide who it's going to come from. So if you want it to come from the assigned salesperson, the master administrator, you can do that. You can select that there. And of course we want to make sure that we're sending it to the client. And then the rest of the settings are available in some YouTube videos. I don't want to go too deep into those, but the last thing that I would suggest doing is, again, this campaign name. The display name and campaign name. The display name is what it's going to appear to you. So you want to make that so what you know what it is. And then the campaign name is how you can separate call it that. How you can separate those here inside of your email templates for easier reference, not only when you're viewing them here, but when you're also viewing an event and you click the email tab. If you want to send one of those email templates, you'll be able to see it broken up into that section, into those campaigns here. So then as far as sending that second email, you would just take that email that you currently have. I would duplicate it. That's how I technically do it, especially if I'm sending multiples, and I'll update the wording. You don't want to send the same email over and over again to the client. Change each email template, whatever it may be. And I encourage as well too, and you'll probably hear this in a lot of other sales classes, and I don't want to go too deep on sales here, but be unique, be personal, do something that's going to make them go, huh? It never hurts. Let them know that you're a real person, even though it's a scheduled email, putting that something personal touch in there, a weird question maybe, or anything to make the client open up the email or recognize that, hey, you're a real person and you have a real interest in me, is important. But once you have the content changed and edited, the display name, again, is going to be for you. So you can change this to maybe number 2. It'll already be part of initial inquiry follow-up. If we duplicate it from that email, it's going to copy everything over. Down here, let's say we want to send this 4 days after initial contact date, and so on and so forth. And you just continue building up those email templates for each step in that status. So I hope that helps, Sean. Gives you an idea of a good place to start. Chris asked if you could add pictures to emails, and can you create proposals style, I think. So you can add pictures. Again, with DJ Event Planner, we do not host any images, so the images have to be linked to. So if I wanted to post an image in this email, oh, that's a plain text email. Probably want an HTML email. This is just a test email template. If you had a header image, let's just grab a random, let's go here. Whoops, I don't know what I just did. Let me do that again. I'll take an image from my website or our website, and I'm going to click the little image icon at the top of the WYSIWYG editor. I'm going to paste the URL into the URL box. I can add alternative text. This alternative text is going to be what appears if the image is not loaded. And that's one of the things I always will stress. Obviously, I'd use a different logo with darker lettering versus a white on white. Excuse me. And the reason why, what was I talking about? As far as the alternative text goes, and with pictures and emails, a lot of users' email programs do not immediately load photos unless they set it up to load photos when they read emails. And the reason for that is because images can hide hacked text programs, whatever. When it loads the image, it can load that additional data as well as tracking data. And users, don't like to be tracked or obviously get hacked. So if you use the alternative text in there, it could just be something defining what the image is, or some other text. Etc. And then you just simply save that, and that image will be embedded inside that HTML email when you send it to the client. I would have to check that out, David. I'm not, and David and Chris, I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I've seen those. Because the email templates are HTML, you can create them however you want. So there are a couple different options available underneath the shared document. So whether they're sending a document or if it's an HTML email, you can build this out completely to be HTML. So perfect. Any other questions or comments or concerns about DJ Event Planner in general before we start wrapping it up?
can I just tack on to the image portion you're talking about? When you can make that a specific size, right? As well. So regardless of the source it comes from, you can control how big it appears.
Correct. So you can change the width and the height. If you want the proportions to stay the same, you want to make sure that this lock is closed. So if I want it to be smaller, you really don't want to go bigger than the original image size, obviously, because it'll stretch it out and it'll look like garbage in the email. The other thing I would consider, though, too, is if you're going to send an email with images in it, you want the source image to be the size of the image you want in the email for the most part, because the larger, even though let's say it's you have 1,000 by 1,000 pixel image and you input it in that email as a 300 by 300, it's still loading that 1,000 by 1,000 pixel image first and then sizing it down via the code. So all of that data is still being sent. And the more data and the larger the size of the email template, the slower send time, the slower load time on the client end, as well as a bigger chance of getting hit with spam blockers.
I never thought about that. What do you suggest? If someone opens it on their phone or they open it on their computer, it's going to look different. Is there a magic wand or a magic setting, or what's the best practice for setting a size for a logo in an email template?
In an email, that is a really, really good question. I haven't really covered that a whole lot or discussed it a whole lot or really talked about it a whole lot. But first response would be utilizing an HTML-based email. And you can downsize that image using CSS code. So that'd be something you want to talk with a web developer about or web designer. A lot of times times that I've done in the past is I've utilized mass email programs like MailChimp or MadMeMe, built an email template in there. And then you can take that code and copy that code and input it into the source of your email template here, and then build it out from there. So, and they'll have the CSS already embedded in that to resize those images on a mobile device.
Okay.
So just like, for example, you'll find some of the code, and we've been working on changing things over on, what is the word I'm looking for? In the client portal and in documents and stuff, as far as, or not the client portal, but website tools using mobile friendly code to make documents look more responsive on a phone. So for example, this document template here was built with responsive code. Whoops, I'm dragging the wrong thing. Let's try that again. So as they scale down and they start looking at this on a mobile device, you'll see the image scales down as well as the text becomes friendlier on a mobile device.
That's my biggest weakness, is I got to do that better, because I try and use tables and play with different things, and I get close, but it's not perfect. So I'll have to take a look at one of those and use that as a sample.
And a couple of things to note as well too, when you use tables, and even if you put images in and you're working with code, for example, if I have a document, let's take just any random document here. Hey, stop. Open. Got a lot of random stuff in here. When I put a table in, instead of using a set width of this is 500 pixels, I will use percentages. So when you use percentages, that will allow that table to scale. So it's going to be 100% of whatever the view width is. So as it scales down, it's going to maintain that 100%. So in other words, full width. And that way it'll adjust a lot nicer on mobile, smaller screen sizes. So same thing with images. You can make those images if you edit the CSS, and I'll show you, well, not necessarily the CSS, but the code, and I'll show you a quick trick to do that. We'll throw this in here. So this is going to be based upon pixels, width, and whatever. And I've never tried this before. Let's try this real quick. Let's say if I put this at 25%. Is that putting it at 25 pixels?
So yeah, you see how it scales down. So if you use a percentage for your image size as well, it'll scale down nicely on mobile devices.
Okay, and then just off of that, what about the text inside those tables? Will the text get smaller as well, or is the text size the text size?
The text size is going to be the text size, unless you have specific code to change the text size. So the best rule of thumb is to choose a good size available for print and
Yeah.
web view. So that's going to be the only downside if you don't utilize CSS to change those on mobile devices.
Well, you solved some of my problems already, so it gives me more to play with right there. Thank you.
Perfect. Cool. No problems. You're welcome. Let's see, looking at some of these questions. Chris asked if you could use GIFs and emails. Technically, you can. And that was actually a big trend for a little while of videos and emails. And basically what they were doing was taking a video and making it a GIF. But with email security these days, it's not worth it, in my opinion. Somebody else might have a different opinion, but that's just, again, my opinion. I would say it's not worth it. Again, because it has to be a super small size. Most email templates or most emails themselves have to be, I think, underneath 21 megabytes in size in order to actually even send through your server, your email server, whoever your email host is. That's usually average. Some have smaller, some have larger sizes. And GIFs can get a little bit bigger, but when you turn it down into a GIF, you're losing quality. It's going to be pixelated. It's going to be jumpy, but I haven't seen a lot of marketing companies utilizing GIFs these days simply for those reasons, if that makes sense. And I agree with Keith. Keith mentioned in the comments, if you missed it, first email, send as a plain text email and ask them to add you to their safe email senders list or whitelist you. I do that as well. The first email that goes out, I always suggest it should be a plain text email. It gives you better chances of getting into their inbox instead of the spam folder. And then once they've whitelisted that email address or have at least accepted or responded to it, it's considered an accepted email. And then you can send them prettier emails after the fact. And David, that would definitely be something you can add to the wish list on the support forum. It's definitely not something that's totally out of the question. And I think that is something that is, as well as far as the editor goes, something that's on our to-do items and something that we've discussed before. So not everything's immediate, David. Unfortunately, there's a lot more things that are pertinent in keeping the software running. So do know that it has been something that has been discussed. So there's a lot that goes into it on whether it's going to be something that can be implemented and go forward from there. But it is definitely something that has been discussed. I couldn't give you any yays or nays on whether it's going to be something that's definitely coming, but there is a good possibility. So cool. Let me see if I want to make sure I got everybody's questions. Oh, so as far as like those pre-made templates, we do have some templates that we've pre-made where the merge tags are already in there. Again, it depends on how pretty and you want it to be, and again, if you go to the contract, these all here have been made mobile friendly, except for this one. This one's, I think, our still old school one. And we can create more as well. And again, it's something, because they're all HTML based, you can make your documents as pretty as you want. The biggest things that I think you really want to think about is, what is the client doing with it? Is it going to be printed? Are they saving it as a PDF? How's it going to look? A lot of those things as well. So perfect. One last call. Any other questions that anybody has before anybody gets back to their crazy busy work days? Which I hope everybody's having a crazy busy work day at some point in time. Thanks, guys. Perfect. So at this time, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, remember, if you didn't get that link bookmarked, wherever it went, I lost it already myself. I'll throw it back up there again. So this is basically what we covered today. Again, it's also posted on our Facebook page. It'll be posted in the description of the video as well. You'll want to make sure that you visit that page for other ideas and assistance. Again, there's nothing 100% correct or wrong. Whoops. I'm trying to send this back to you guys in the chat. It's going to be what works best for your business. But again, I'd encourage you guys to keep track of those events for those cancellations and the reschedules. Of course, refunds, obviously, for purposes of the end of the year, even if it's for your own records. So you have things to look back on and go forth with. So, but anyway, again, thanks for joining us, guys. DJEP Live in November. Look for a special DJEP Live coming up soon. The date and time will be announced, covering the dashboard. Other than that, I hope everybody here in the States at least has a great Thanksgiving. The rest of you have a great holiday season if we don't talk to you before then. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys on the next DJEP Live. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining.
Birthday to
Thanks, Keith.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Have a great Tuesday.